I'm Olivia Mitchell, 34, biotech engineer and COO of Mitchell Pharmaceuticals. For 12 years, I poured my heart and soul into building our family business alongside my parents. Never did I imagine they would betray me so completely, firing me during a board meeting without warning. When my father coldly stated, "You're fired. All communication through company lawyer," I simply replied, "Understood." Little did they know what that single word actually meant. Let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button. Wait until you see what happened just 1 week after I was blindsided. Growing up, science was my sanctuary. While other kids played with dolls, I begged for chemistry sets and microscopes. My father, John, a brilliant biochemist, nurtured this passion. He'd bring me into his home lab on weekends, patiently explaining reactions and biological processes. "Olivia, you have a natural talent for this," he'd say, his eyes crinkling with pride. Those moments shaped my future. I graduated top of my class at MIT with dual degrees in biochemical engineering and business administration. Job offers flooded in from pharmaceutical giants with six-figure salaries and generous signing bonuses. My classmates thought I was crazy when I turned them all down to join Mitchell Pharmaceuticals, my parents' fledgling company operating out of a converted warehouse. "You could be working at Pfizer or Merck," my roommate Charlotte exclaimed. "Why choose a startup that might not exist in 5 years?" The answer was simple: family and vision. My mother Sandra, with her razor-sharp business acumen, had taught me to see opportunities others missed. "Business isn't just about profit margins," she would explain during our Sunday dinners. "It's about building something that outlives you." I wanted to create that legacy alongside the people I loved most. The early days at Mitchell Pharmaceuticals defined dedication. We started with just 8 employees in what was essentially a glorified garage. My office doubled as the break room and sometimes the testing lab. I worked 80-hour weeks, arriving before sunrise and leaving long after dark. Dating became an afterthought, and starting my own family was postponed indefinitely. The company was my baby. Within 3 years, my research led to our first breakthrough, a drug delivery system that significantly reduced side effects for chemotherapy patients. The patent was revolutionary, and hospitals across the country began contacting us. That first patent was registered under my name, though at the time, I never thought that detail would matter. 2 more groundbreaking patents followed over the next 5 years, both my creations. Our company grew from that garage operation to a mid-sized pharmaceutical firm with over 200 employees and contracts with major hospital networks. Industry publications featured us as a success story, often highlighting my innovations as the driving force behind our growth. Family life and business blended together. Monday strategy meetings flowed into Friday family dinners. We vacationed together annually, though even on beaches or mountaintops, conversation inevitably turned to work. I didn't mind. The company felt like an extension of our family bond. My younger brother Ryan joined the company after finishing his marketing degree. While I had inherited our father's scientific mind, Ryan had our mother's gift for presentation and persuasion. He headed our marketing department, creating slick campaigns that helped bring our products to wider attention. Unlike me, Ryan maintained a healthy work-life balance, rarely staying past 5 and taking every vacation day allotted. "You need to live a little, live," he'd tell me, using my childhood nickname. "The company won't collapse if you take a weekend off." But I couldn't step away. Every success fueled my dreams for Mitchell Pharmaceuticals' future. I envisioned us becoming a major player in personalized medicine, developing treatments tailored to individual genetic profiles. In my mind, I would eventually take the helm as CEO when my parents retired, with Ryan continuing to lead our public-facing efforts. The first hint that this future might be in jeopardy came during our annual industry conference in Boston. I overheard snippets of conversation between my father and our Chief Financial Officer Theodore. "We need to consider restructuring before moving forward," my father said, his voice unusually hushed. "And Olivia? Have you discussed this with her?" Theodore asked. "Not yet. Sandra thinks we should wait until plans are more concrete." They noticed me approaching and abruptly changed the subject. When I asked about it later, my father waved away my concerns. "Just exploring options for expanding the research department," he said dismissively. "Nothing for you to worry about." I trusted him completely, never imagining that restructuring might mean removing me from the equation entirely. After all, we were family, and family looked out for each other. At least, that's what I believed. Strange meetings began appearing on the company calendar, scheduled when I was known to be in the lab. Twice, I walked into my father's office to find him quickly ending phone calls. My mother, usually my strongest advocate in management decisions, became oddly distant during strategy sessions. Still, I pushed away the growing unease. We were in the final stages of clinical trials for our newest drug, and I attributed the strange behavior to stress. Looking back, I should have recognized these changes for what they were, the first tremors before the earthquake that would shatter everything I'd built. The shift in my parents' behavior became impossible to ignore as winter turned to spring. My father, once eager to discuss research developments with me over morning coffee, now offered only perfunctory greetings before retreating to his office. My mother, who had previously sought my input on every business decision, began finalizing contracts without my review. Small exclusions grew into glaring omissions. I discovered our company had entered preliminary talks with Westlake Biomedical, a potential distribution partner, only after their representatives mentioned it during a charity gala. "We're looking forward to our meeting next week," Westlake's CEO remarked casually. "Your brother Ryan has been very persuasive about the partnership potential." I maintained my composure through dinner, but confronted my mother in her office the following morning. "Why wasn't I informed about the Westlake negotiations?" I asked, struggling to keep accusation from my tone. "Oh, it's very preliminary," she replied, not meeting my eyes. "We didn't want to distract you from the clinical trials." "You're so busy already, Olivia." Her explanation sounded reasonable, but the pattern continued. 3 investor meetings scheduled without my knowledge. A research direction change approved without my input. My signature forged on documents I'd never seen. Most troubling were the private lunches between my parents and Ryan. Twice weekly, they would leave together for 2-hour blocks marked vaguely as family business in their calendars. When I asked to join, my father's response was quick and firm. "No need, Olivia. Just catching up with Ryan about marketing strategies. We'll brief you if anything important comes up." I attempted to address my concerns directly during our monthly leadership review. "I feel like I'm being systematically excluded from key decisions," I stated, laying out the pattern I'd observed. My father's response was dismissive. "You're being paranoid, Olivia. Perhaps you're working too hard. Have you considered taking some time off?" My mother nodded in agreement. "You've seemed stressed lately, dear. Maybe a vacation would help clear your head." Their synchronized dismissal of my legitimate concerns left me reeling. For the first time, I felt like an outsider in my own family and company. Jessica Winters, our corporate attorney and my closest friend at the firm, noticed my distress during our weekly racquetball game. Unlike others who avoided me as my parents' behavior changed, Jessica remained steadfastly loyal. "Something's happening, Olivia," she admitted after I confided in her. "I've been asked to review unusual documents lately. Restructuring proposals, revised operating agreements. I can't share details because of confidentiality, but keep your eyes open." Her warning sent ice through my veins. That night, I used my executive access to search the company's secure document repository. Most files were accessible, but I discovered an entire folder structure labeled Strategic Realignment 2025 that denied my credentials. As COO, there should have been no internal documents I couldn't view. My anxiety mounting, I arrived early the next day and methodically examined the recent badge access logs. My parents and Ryan had held 6 after-hours meetings in the conference room over the past month, none of which appeared on the official calendar. The final confirmation came when I discovered my executive assistant Thomas had been reassigned without my knowledge. Thomas had worked exclusively with me for 5 years, managing my schedule and acting as my right hand in daily operations. "I wanted to tell you," he whispered when I confronted him, genuine distress in his eyes. "Mrs. Mitchell said the reassignment came directly from her and that you'd been informed." "Who's taking your place?" I asked, already suspecting the answer. "Ryan's assistant, Melissa. She'll be supporting both of you during the transition." "What transition, Thomas?" His uncomfortable silence told me everything. That afternoon, I found a restricted research file mistakenly saved to a public server. The document outlined plans to pivot our research away from my current projects toward areas Ryan had been quietly developing on the side. My years of work, the foundation of our company's success, was being systematically deprioritized. Despite mounting evidence, I maintained a desperate hope that I was misinterpreting the situation. These were my parents, after all. The people who had encouraged my love of science, celebrated my achievements, built this company alongside me. Surely they wouldn't betray me so completely. The email arrived at 7:30 p.m. on a Thursday evening. "Emergency board meeting. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Attendance mandatory." No agenda attached, no explanation provided. The sender, my father's executive account. I spent the night reviewing every contract, patent, and contribution I'd made to Mitchell Pharmaceuticals. Whatever was coming, I would face it prepared. Sleep eluded me as questions circled my mind like hungry wolves. What had I done wrong? Why was I being pushed out? How could my family do this to me? Morning arrived with cruel swiftness. I dressed meticulously in my most authoritative suit, armor for the battle ahead. As I drove to the office, the weight of dread pressed against my chest, making each breath an effort. Something fundamental was about to change, and deep down, I knew there was nothing I could do to stop it. The boardroom fell silent as I pushed open the heavy oak door. 8 pairs of eyes turned toward me, then quickly away, finding sudden interest in meeting documents or the cityscape visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. The air felt charged with uncomfortable anticipation. My usual seat at my father's right hand had been taken by Ryan, who offered a tight smile that didn't reach his eyes. An unfamiliar leather portfolio sat at his elbow, embossed with his initials in gold. I took the only remaining chair, opposite my parents rather than beside them. "Now that everyone's present, we can begin," my father announced, his voice carrying none of its usual warmth. He wore his investor meeting face, all business and sharp edges. My mother sat beside him, perfect posture and manicured hands folded precisely on the polished table. She hadn't looked directly at me since I entered. Board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Most had known me since the company's inception, had celebrated milestones and weathered crises with me. Today, they studied their tablets with unusual intensity. "Mitchell Pharmaceuticals stands at a crucial juncture," my father began, reading from prepared remarks. "To capitalize on emerging market opportunities, we must implement strategic leadership restructuring effective immediately." The corporate speak felt surreal coming from my father's mouth. This was the man who taught me to ride a bike, who brought soup when I was sick, who beamed with pride at my college graduation. Now he spoke as if addressing a stranger. "After extensive evaluation, the board has approved a new organizational structure. Ryan Mitchell will assume the position of Chief Operating Officer, overseeing daily operations and strategic initiatives." My brother straightened almost imperceptibly, his expression carefully neutral. I felt the blood drain from my face, but maintained my composure, years of boardroom negotiations finally serving a purpose beyond business. "Olivia's position is being eliminated as part of this restructuring," my father continued, still not meeting my gaze. "Her responsibilities will be distributed between Ryan and a new research director to be named later." My mother finally spoke, her voice practiced and even. We believe fresh direction is needed to pursue new market segments. Ryan's vision aligns more closely with the board's growth strategy. The words washed over me like acid rain. Fresh direction. Ryan's vision. Growth strategy. Corporate euphemisms masking the simple truth. They were casting me aside, negating 12 years of sacrifice and success. I took a measured breath before responding. I'd like to understand the specific concerns about my leadership that prompted this decision. This isn't about your performance, my father replied too quickly. The company is simply moving in a new direction that requires different expertise. Different expertise? I echoed, struggling to maintain my professional tone. The company was built on my patents. Our 3 flagship products exist because of my research. Our primary revenue streams depend on innovations I developed. My mother's smile tightened. And we're grateful for those contributions, Olivia. You'll receive a generous severance package reflecting your years with the company. Severance package, I repeated numbly. You're terminating my employment entirely, not just removing me from leadership? Ryan finally spoke, his voice carrying a rehearsed sympathy that made my skin crawl. We feel a clean break would be best for everyone. Continuing in another capacity would be awkward. Theodore, our CFO and the longest-serving board member outside my family, looked distinctly uncomfortable. Perhaps we should discuss transition arrangements to ensure ongoing projects aren't disrupted. That won't be necessary, my father cut in. Ryan has been briefed on all essential operations. The implication struck like a physical blow. This hadn't been a sudden decision. They had been planning this for months, systematically extracting my knowledge while preparing to discard me. When does this take effect? I asked, my voice steady despite the earthquake inside me. Immediately, my father replied, sliding a thick manila envelope across the table. Your personal items will be packed and delivered to your residence. Building access has been deactivated. The clinical efficiency of their betrayal stunned me. They had already erased me from the company I helped build. And if I have questions about the severance terms? I asked, not touching the envelope. My father's response froze the last warm memory I had of him. You're fired, Olivia. All communication goes through the company lawyer from this point forward. The boardroom fell silent. Even those who had supported the decision seemed shocked by his coldness. I stood slowly, smoothed my jacket, and picked up the envelope with steady hands that betrayed nothing of my internal collapse. Understood, I said simply, meeting each gaze around the table before walking out with my dignity intact. That single word contained multitudes, acknowledgement of their betrayal, acceptance of the new reality, and the seed of a response they couldn't begin to anticipate. I had built Mitchell Pharmaceuticals alongside them. I knew its strengths, its vulnerabilities, and most importantly, its dependence on my innovations. They had taught me well in business. Never make yourself irreplaceable because no one is truly indispensable. But they had failed to follow their own advice. The parking garage provided blessed privacy as I finally allowed my composure to crack. My hands shook violently as I fumbled with the key fob, missing the ignition twice before connecting. Tears blurred the dashboard into a smear of colors and lights. 12 years of dedication, of missed birthdays and canceled vacations, of putting the company before my own life, had culminated in that sterile dismissal. The physical pain surprised me most, a crushing pressure in my chest that made breathing difficult. Medical training told me it was anxiety, not cardiac arrest, but my body couldn't distinguish between the two. I drove aimlessly for an hour, eventually parking at Lakeside Park, where my father and I used to feed ducks on Sunday mornings. The irony wasn't lost on me. Through the windshield, I watched joggers and dog walkers enjoying the spring sunshine, their worlds intact while mine had imploded. When my breathing finally steadied, I called Jessica. They did it, I said when she answered, my voice hollow. Complete termination, effective immediately. My father's exact words were, "You're fired." All communication through company lawyer. I've been trying to reach you, Jessica replied, her voice tight with concern. They called an emergency partners meeting right after the board adjourned. I've been instructed to handle your separation agreement. Are you still my friend, Jess, or just their lawyer now? Her response was immediate. Friend first, always. But professionally, I need to recuse myself from representing either side in this. There's too much conflict of interest. I need advice, Jess. Not as Mitchell Pharmaceuticals attorney, but as someone who knows both the company and me. Come to my place tonight. 7 o'clock. We'll talk privately. The hours until our meeting stretched endlessly. I returned home to find boxes of personal effects already delivered from my office, family photos, degrees, awards, all neatly packed as if containing a life now concluded. The efficiency of my removal felt like salt in fresh wounds. Anger began to display shock as I methodically unpacked my professional history. Each item represented milestones in building Mitchell Pharmaceuticals, the prototype model of our first drug delivery system, industry recognition awards, congratulatory cards from grateful patients whose lives our products had improved. The manila envelope from the board meeting contained exactly what I expected: a severance agreement offering 12 months' salary in exchange for a comprehensive non-compete clause, confidentiality provisions, and waiver of all claims against the company. The document was coldly efficient, stripping away my past contributions and preventing future competition. Jessica's downtown condo offered both legal sanctuary and emotional support. She greeted me with a fierce hug and a glass of wine, letting me vent my raw emotions before steering the conversation toward practical matters. First, don't sign anything, she advised, reviewing the severance agreement. This is insulting given your contributions to the company. What leverage do I have? They've already removed me. More than you realize, Jessica replied, opening her laptop. Let's start with the patent situation. Together we researched the legal status of my 3 key patents. The first major discovery, while Mitchell Pharmaceuticals had exclusive licensing rights, the patents themselves remained registered in my name, not the company's. This is crucial, Jessica explained. The company's using your intellectual property through licensing agreements you signed as both inventor and company officer. There's a strong legal argument those agreements are now void upon termination. Can I revoke their right to use my patents? Potentially. We need a specialized patent attorney to review the specifics, but yes, this gives you significant leverage. Next, we examined the client relationships I'd personally cultivated. Many of our hospital contracts contained key person clauses specifying my involvement in implementation and support. My abrupt removal potentially triggered breach of contract provisions. Your parents may not realize how many institutional clients see you, not the Mitchell name, as their primary relationship, Jessica noted. That's another pressure point. We worked through the night, cataloging company vulnerabilities and my potential responses. By dawn, a strategy emerged from the emotional wreckage. I wouldn't be a passive victim in this betrayal. I would reclaim my power through strategic action. Sleep finally claimed me around 6, but dreams offered no respite. I watched my mother and father transform into strangers wearing familiar faces, speaking words that cut like glass while smiling placidly. I woke gasping, sheets tangled around me like restraints. Over the next 3 days, I oscillated between grief and determination. Moments of sobbing helplessness gave way to cold clarity as I built my response plan. The betrayal hurt most coming from family, people who should protect rather than exploit, support rather than sabotage. I sought counsel from Patricia Gonzalez, a patent attorney specializing in pharmaceutical intellectual property. Her downtown office, with its wall of success stories and impressive credentials, offered professional validation I desperately needed. These patents are unquestionably yours, Patricia confirmed after reviewing the documentation. Mitchell Pharmaceuticals has licensing rights through agreements you signed as both inventor and corporate officer. Your termination creates a compelling case for contract frustration. Meaning? meaning the company can't summarily fire the inventor and still expect unrestricted use of her intellectual property. At minimum, this justifies renegotiation of terms. With Patricia's guidance, I spent hours documenting every proprietary process I developed for the company. Knowledge that existed only in my mind represented significant operational value. Manufacturing processes I'd optimized, research pathways only I fully understood, troubleshooting procedures for equipment I'd modified, all constituted intellectual capital they couldn't easily replace. I contacted trusted vendors and suppliers who had worked with me throughout my tenure. Without explicitly saying so, I ensured they understood my departure had been involuntary and complete. Many expressed shock and dismay. Several mentioned immediate concerns about ongoing projects without my oversight. Industry colleagues reached out as news of my departure spread through professional networks. Competing firms extended lunch invitations that delicately suggested employment interest. I accepted these meetings not to pursue immediate opportunities, but to ensure my parents understood my market value. Throughout this process, I maintained scrupulous professionalism. No bitter social media posts, no vindictive leaks to industry publications, no emotional outbursts in public venues. My response would be measured, legal, and devastatingly effective. 7 days after my termination, I authorized Patricia to send a formal letter to Mitchell Pharmaceuticals. The document was a masterpiece of legal precision, withdrawing permission to use my patents without fair compensation reflective of their market value, estimated at approximately 60% of the company's current revenue. The letter landed like a bomb. Within hours, Ryan called my cell phone. "Olivia, we need to talk about this patent situation immediately," he began without preamble, panic evident in his voice. "I believe Dad made the communication protocol clear," I replied calmly. "Please have the company lawyer contact my attorney. Her information is in the letter." "This is family, not just business," he protested. "That distinction was erased in the boardroom, Ryan. I'm simply protecting my interests as you all protected yours." His next words confirmed everything. "Production is scheduled for next week. We can't just stop using the delivery system." That sounds like a significant operational challenge, one that someone with my expertise could have helped prevent. I ended the call and turned off my phone, allowing myself a moment of grim satisfaction. The first tremor had been felt. Others would follow as the full implications of my absence rippled through company operations. My parents' initial response came through formal channels, a dismissive legal letter asserting their right to continued use of the patents under existing agreements. They clearly believed I was bluffing, that family ties would prevent me from truly disrupting the business they'd built. They didn't yet understand that those same family ties made my response not less, but more determined. The personal betrayal demanded accountability that simple business disputes did not. Within days, production issues emerged exactly as I'd anticipated. Without my knowledge of calibration procedures for the specialized equipment, quality control metrics began failing. Clients accustomed to speaking directly with me about implementation raised concerns about continuity. Research projects stalled without my guidance on next steps. The company my parents thought could function without me was beginning to show critical stress fractures. The question wasn't if they would respond, but when and how. I didn't have to wait long to find out. The call from Patricia came exactly 9 days after my termination. "Mitchell Pharmaceuticals' outside counsel contacted me this morning," she reported. "They're requesting an urgent meeting to discuss mutually beneficial resolution options." Translation: I asked, though I already knew. "They're feeling the pressure and want to negotiate," she confirmed. "I recommend we meet at my office, not theirs. Maintain the psychological advantage." I agreed, suggesting Thursday morning, giving them another 2 days to experience operating difficulties without me. Patricia scheduled the meeting for 9 a.m., the same time my termination had been announced. The symmetry felt appropriate. The intervening days brought developments that strengthened my position. 2 major hospital networks contacted me directly, expressing concerns about their contracts given my departure. A research partner university placed their joint development project on hold pending clarification of intellectual property rights. 3 key scientists from my team submitted resignations. I prepared meticulously for the meeting, reviewing financial projections, patent valuations, and contract terms. Emotional preparation proved harder. Despite everything, these were my parents. Part of me still flinched at causing them distress, still hoped for reconciliation beyond business terms. I reminded myself repeatedly of the boardroom's cold efficiency, of "you're fired," delivered without hesitation. Thursday morning arrived crisp and clear. I chose a charcoal suit with subtle authority, accessorized with my grandmother's pearl necklace, a reminder of family legacy beyond my parents. In Patricia's elegant conference room, we arranged seating to face the door, ensuring those entering would feel subtly disadvantaged. At exactly 9, Patricia's assistant announced the Mitchell Pharmaceuticals representatives, Charles Dumont, their corporate counsel, and Theodore Wilson, the CFO. My parents had sent proxies rather than appearing themselves, another telling choice. "Ms. Mitchell," Charles began after perfunctory introductions, "we appreciate your willingness to discuss these matters directly. The company values your contributions and hopes to find an amicable resolution." If the company truly valued my contributions, we wouldn't be sitting here, I replied evenly. "But I'm willing to hear your proposal." Charles slid a document across the table. "A revised separation agreement that we believe addresses your concerns. The company is prepared to offer a significant enhancement to your severance package, including continued health benefits and accelerated vesting of your stock options." Patricia and I reviewed the document together. The offer doubled my severance to 24 months' salary and added several financial sweeteners. The patent issue was addressed through a proposed licensing agreement offering 5% royalties on products using my innovations. "This is inadequate," Patricia stated flatly. "My client's patents generate approximately 60% of Mitchell Pharmaceuticals' current revenue. Market rate licensing would start at 20% royalties, not 5%. Theodore winced visibly. "That's financially untenable. The company couldn't sustain operations at that royalty rate." "That's precisely the point," I interjected. "My innovations are not peripheral to the business. They are central to its existence. The compensation should reflect that reality." "We should also address the operational knowledge gap," Patricia continued. "Several processes critical to production exist only in Ms. Mitchell's understanding. That intellectual capital has significant independent value." Charles attempted to regain control of the conversation. "The company is prepared to engage Ms. Mitchell as a consultant during transition." "At what rate?" I interrupted. "And under whose management? Would I report to the brother who helped orchestrate my removal? Or perhaps to the parents who couldn't deliver the termination news themselves today?" The meeting continued for 3 hours, proposals and counterproposals exchanged with increasing tension. Throughout, I maintained professional detachment, never raising my voice or showing the emotional turmoil beneath my composure. As discussions stalled on patent valuation, Theodore's phone buzzed repeatedly. After the 4th call in 10 minutes, he excused himself briefly. Upon returning, his expression had darkened considerably. "We've just received word that Memorial Health System is threatening to cancel their contract," he announced to Charles. "They're invoking the key person clause citing Olivia's departure. That's 20% of our current revenue." Charles attempted damage control. "Perhaps we should adjourn to consider adjusted terms." "There's more," Theodore interrupted. "Production line 3 has been down since yesterday. The calibration issue hasn't been resolved, and shipments for Northeast Regional will be delayed. They're already threatening penalties under the delivery timeline provisions." The disclosure confirmed what I already knew. The company was facing cascading failures without my knowledge and oversight. My strategic withdrawal of support was creating precisely the pressure points I'd anticipated. Charles conferred quietly with Theodore before addressing me directly. Ms. Mitchell, it seems there are operational matters requiring immediate attention. The company would be willing to substantially revise our offer if you could assist with these pressing issues. I'm not interested in band-aid solutions, I replied calmly. Any agreement must address the fundamental issue. My contributions to Mitchell Pharmaceuticals have been systematically undervalued, and my position eliminated without proper cause or compensation. What exactly are you seeking? Charles asked, frustration edging his tone. I slid a single page across the table, my terms distilled to their essence. Full partnership with equal decision-making authority, retroactive compensation adjustment reflecting my patent contributions, and board representation, ensuring this situation cannot recur. Charles stared at the document, then at me. This would essentially make you equal to the founders. The founders couldn't sustain the business without my innovations, I stated simply. The terms reflect that reality. The meeting ended without resolution, but the power dynamics had shifted irrevocably. As they gathered their materials, Theodore asked quietly, "Would you be willing to meet directly with John and Sandra? Off the record." "That depends entirely on them," I answered. "But I would require neutral territory and clear acknowledgement of what happened. No gaslighting, no minimizing." That evening, my father's personal number appeared on my phone. I let it ring through to voicemail. "Olivia, it's Dad," his message began, voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "We need to talk. Not as Mitchell Pharmaceuticals, just as family. Please call me back." I didn't return the call immediately. Instead, I drafted an email specifying conditions for a meeting, neutral location, no lawyers present, acknowledgement that they had acted unilaterally to remove me, and willingness to discuss substantial restructuring of both company and family relationships. His response came within minutes, agreed to all conditions. Riverview Restaurant, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Just the four of us. The climactic confrontation I had both dreaded and needed was finally at hand. Riverview Restaurant occupied the top floor of Westlake Tower, offering panoramic views of the city and river below. I'd suggested the location deliberately, public enough to discourage emotional outbursts, upscale enough to demand decorum, and neutral territory for all parties. I arrived 20 minutes early, selecting a corner table that allowed me to see the mentor while giving me the psychological advantage of being settled first. My parents and Ryan arrived together at precisely 7, creating a visual tableau of family unity from which I was conspicuously excluded. My mother wore her funeral black suit, reserved for the most serious business occasions. My father looked older than I remembered, the lines around his eyes deeper, his shoulders slightly stooped. Ryan maintained the same neutral expression he'd worn in the boardroom, though tension showed in his tight jaw. "Olivia," my father began as they took their seats. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." "This isn't a favor," I replied evenly. "It's a business discussion with personal implications." My mother flinched visibly at the coldness in my tone. "We're still family, regardless of business disagreements." "Family doesn't ambush family in board meetings," I countered. "Family doesn't systematically exclude family from decisions. Family doesn't terminate family without warning and send boxes of personal effects like discarding unwanted furniture." My father raised his hands in a placating gesture. "We handled things poorly. I acknowledge that and take responsibility." "Acknowledgement isn't enough," I said. "I need to understand why. After 12 years of growing this company together, what possibly justified not just removing me from leadership, but firing me completely?" Ryan spoke for the first time. "The board felt the company needed to move in new directions. The decision wasn't personal." "Not personal?" I echoed incredulously. "You took my position, my company access, my projects, and my professional dignity in one coordinated strike. You can't possibly believe that wasn't personal." "The company is evolving," my mother interjected. "Sometimes difficult decisions." "Stop," I interrupted firmly. No corporate euphemisms. I deserve the unvarnished truth after everything I've contributed. My father exchanged glances with my mother before responding. The truth is complex, Olivia. Yes, your technical contributions have been invaluable, but your management style has become increasingly inflexible. You resist any research direction you didn't personally initiate. Several key researchers have complained about micromanagement. And rather than discussing these concerns, you orchestrated my removal behind my back, I observed. That says more about your leadership than mine. We worried you'd react defensively, my mother admitted. Your emotional investment in your projects sometimes clouds your judgment. So, instead you eliminated me entirely? That's not addressing a management issue. That's erasing a person. Ryan leaned forward. The situation has clearly escalated beyond what anyone intended. Now we're facing operational crises that threaten everything we've all built. 3 production lines are compromised, Memorial is threatening contract cancellation, and the Henderson research collaboration is stalled indefinitely. Those consequences were predictable the moment you decided to remove the person responsible for creating and maintaining those systems, I noted calmly. I'm not causing these problems, I'm simply no longer solving them. My father's composure finally cracked. What do you want, Olivia? Money? Title? Your old position back? Tell us what it will take to end this standoff. I want what I've earned, I replied. Equal partnership, reflecting my contributions to this company's success. Board representation, ensuring I can't be ambushed again. And most importantly, acknowledgement that how you treated me was fundamentally wrong, not just tactically, but morally. Equal partnership with the founders, my father responded, anger finally breaking through. We created this company, took all the initial risks, and would have remained a small contract research operation without my innovations, I completed. The company's growth trajectory changed dramatically when my first patent was commercialized. The evidence is in the financial statements. My mother, always the pragmatist, intervened. Let's be practical. The company needs your knowledge to resolve these immediate crises. Perhaps we can establish a consulting arrangement while negotiating longer-term solutions. No, I stated firmly. I'm not interested in temporary fixes. Either we address the fundamental power imbalance, or I'll explore other options for my patents and expertise. You'd compete against your own family? Ryan asked incredulously. You fired your own family, I countered. Actions have consequences. The conversation continued for nearly 3 hours, cycling through anger, negotiation, occasional moments of genuine connection, and renewed tension. Beneath the business discussion lay deeper family dynamics, my father's difficulty surrendering control, my mother's conflict avoidance, Ryan's resentment of my technical prominence, my own workaholic tendencies that had sometimes created friction. Eventually, exhaustion tempered the emotional intensity, allowing clearer perspectives to emerge. I need to understand something, I said as our discussion wound down. Was this always the plan? To use my innovations to build the company, then push me out once you had what you needed? My father looked genuinely shocked. God, no, Olivia. Nothing like that. We genuinely believed the company needed different leadership to grow further. We handled it terribly, but there was never a master plan to exploit you. Then why the secrecy? Why not have an honest conversation about your concerns? My mother answered softly, because we're better at being bosses than parents sometimes. It was easier to make a business decision than have a difficult family conversation. That admission, in its painful honesty, created the first small bridge across the chasm between us. As midnight approached, we reached a tentative framework. I would return as Chief Innovation Officer with equal executive authority to Ryan's COO position. My father would remain CEO with my mother as CFO, but major decisions would require 3 of 4 consensus among us. The board would be restructured to prevent future ambushes. My patents would be properly valued with appropriate royalty structures benefiting both me personally and the company. This isn't just about titles and money, I emphasized as we prepared to leave. Trust has been fundamentally broken. Rebuilding it will require actions, not just agreements. We understand, my father said, looking older and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. This is a beginning, not an endpoint. I left Riverview with mixed emotions. The business framework addressed my professional concerns, but the personal wounds would take longer to heal. As I drove home through empty streets, I realized something important. For the first time in 12 years, I was negotiating from a position of recognized strength rather than proving my value. The painful severance had paradoxically freed me to assert my true worth. The following days brought intensive work drafting formal agreements, restructuring operational responsibilities, and addressing the immediate crises facing the company. I maintained professional distance, focusing on solutions rather than lingering resentments. My patents remained my leverage, and I used them judiciously to ensure the new arrangement had true substance. Ryan and I established cautious working parameters, acknowledging our complementary skills while building new communication protocols. The process wasn't smooth. Years of competition and recent betrayal created frequent tension, but necessity drove cooperation. His marketing vision paired with my technical innovation offered potential neither of us could achieve alone. The power shift manifested in subtle but significant ways. My opinion carried new weight in discussions. My father consulted me first on research directions. Board members who had remained silent during my termination now actively sought my input. The company culture slowly absorbed the new reality. Olivia Mitchell was not merely a valuable employee, but an essential partner in the enterprise. Market response proved immediate and positive. When news of my return with expanded authority reached industry channels, stock price stabilized and client concerns subsided. Memorial Health System renewed their contract with specific provisions requiring my oversight. Research collaborations resumed with renewed energy. The family relationship remained more complicated. Professional reconciliation proceeded faster than personal healing. Business dinners felt stilted, weekly family gatherings remained suspended, and conversations carefully avoided deeper emotional territory. The path forward existed, but would require time and consistent effort to traverse. 1 month after my return, the true test of our new arrangement arrived. A major acquisition opportunity requiring significant investment and strategic commitment. In the past, my parents would have made this decision with minimal input from either Ryan or me. Now, we engaged in genuine collaborative assessment, each bringing distinct perspectives to the analysis. After thorough evaluation, we declined the acquisition, a decision requiring all 4 of us to move beyond individual preferences toward collective wisdom. That unified choice, more than any legal agreement, signaled the potential for a truly reformed partnership. The company was transforming, and so was I. The painful experience had forced me to develop strengths beyond technical expertise, strategic thinking, clear boundary setting, authentic self-advocacy. I began reclaiming personal time, rebuilding friendships neglected during years of work obsession, even cautiously entering the dating world again. "You seem different," Jessica observed during our monthly dinner. "More grounded somehow." "Nearly losing everything made me realize what actually matters," I replied. "The company is important, but it's not my entire identity anymore." That hard-won wisdom would prove the most valuable outcome of the entire painful journey. 3 months after my termination and subsequent return, Mitchell Pharmaceuticals had achieved a new equilibrium. The operational crises had been resolved, research projects were advancing steadily, and financial performance exceeded pre-disruption levels. Our new leadership structure, while occasionally cumbersome in decision-making, provided balanced perspective previously lacking. The personal reconciliation progressed more gradually. Family therapy sessions, initially excruciating in their honesty, slowly rebuilt communication channels eroded by years of business-first priorities. My father struggled most with the power rebalancing, occasionally slipping into old authoritarian patterns before catching himself. My mother worked conscientiously to express opinions directly rather than through diplomatic avoidance. Ryan and I established boundaries between professional collaboration and sibling rivalry. One Tuesday evening, an unexpected visitor arrived at my condo. My father stood in the hallway, alone and without the usual briefcase or company materials. "Do you have a few minutes to talk?" he asked, uncharacteristic uncertainty in his voice. Over coffee at my kitchen counter, he did something I'd never witnessed in 34 years. He apologized without qualification. "I've been reflecting on what happened, and I need to say this clearly," he began. "What we did to you is wrong. Not just strategically misguided, but morally wrong. You deserved better from us as business partners and infinitely better from us as parents." The simple acknowledgement, delivered without defensive caveats, unlocked something tightly coiled within me. I kept asking myself what I'd done to deserve being discarded so completely, I admitted. It felt like everything I'd contributed meant nothing. "That was never true," he responded, eyes glistening. "The truth is complicated and not flattering to me. I was jealous, Olivia. Your innovations were outpacing mine. The company's future clearly belonged to your vision, not mine." Instead of celebrating that as a father should, I felt threatened by it. His vulnerability created space for mine. I was so focused on proving my value through work that I never built a life outside the company. "When you took that away, I had nothing left. That's not healthy, and it's not entirely your fault." That conversation marked a turning point in our healing process. No single discussion could repair years of dysfunctional patterns, but honest acknowledgement created foundation for rebuilding. Similar conversations followed with my mother and Ryan, each revealing perspectives and pain previously unspoken. Professional boundaries established during the crisis proved unexpectedly beneficial for company operations. Our new partnership agreement required clear documentation of decisions, regular review of research priorities, and transparent communication of concerns. These practices, initially implemented as protective measures, enhanced overall company functioning. The pharmaceutical industry took notice of our restructuring and subsequent performance improvements. Industry publications featured profiles of our innovative family leadership model. Competitors began exploring similar balanced authority structures. What had begun as crisis response evolved into recognized best practice. Perhaps most significantly, I reclaimed personal agency beyond professional identity. I established firm work boundaries, leaving the office by 6 most evenings. I renovated the spare bedroom that had functioned as a home office into a pottery studio, reconnecting with a creative passion abandoned during college. I joined a hiking group, making friends outside the industry bubble. 6 months after the termination crisis, I met Daniel Harrison at a charity gala. Unlike previous relationships sidelined by work priorities, I made time for this connection to develop naturally. His work as an architectural engineer complemented my scientific background without competing priorities. For the first time, I envisioned future possibilities including both career fulfillment and personal partnership. Mitchell Pharmaceuticals continued evolving as well. Our innovation pipeline strengthened through collaborative leadership combining my technical insights, Ryan's market awareness, and our parents' experience. Revenue grew steadily, but equally important, employee satisfaction metrics improved significantly under our balanced approach. The painful experience yielded profound lessons that transformed both the company and my understanding of my place within it. True strength comes from self-worth, not external validation. When my identity was wholly invested in company position, losing that role devastated me completely. Rebuilding required recognizing my intrinsic value separate from titles or roles. Family business requires intentional boundaries. The entanglement of family dynamics with professional relationships creates unique vulnerabilities requiring explicit protection. Our new governance structure acknowledged this reality rather than pretending family considerations wouldn't affect business decisions. Advocate for your value before crisis forces the issue. I had allowed my contributions to be undervalued for years, accepting less authority than my innovations warranted. The painful severance ultimately forced appropriate recognition that should have been negotiated proactively. Balanced power creates sustainable success. Our previous hierarchy, with my parents holding unilateral authority, wasted potential through unnecessary constraints. The crisis-induced restructuring unlocked collaborative potential benefiting everyone, including those who initially resisted change. 1 year after the termination, we held a private dinner celebrating the company's 15th anniversary. Seated around the table were the 4 Mitchell family members who had weathered corporate crisis and family fracture to forge something stronger through painful transformation. My father raised his glass in a toast to Mitchell Pharmaceuticals' future, built on innovation, partnership, and hard-won wisdom. My mother added softly, and to family bonds that bent but didn't break. Ryan nodded toward me. To my sister, who taught us all that true value can't be dismissed with a pink slip. I completed the circle, to lessons we wouldn't have chosen, but couldn't have done without. The company continued forward, not erasing the painful chapter, but integrating its lessons into a stronger foundation. The scars remained, visible in moments of cautious communication or lingering hesitation, but no longer defined our interactions. We had created something I once thought impossible. A professional partnership where my contributions received appropriate recognition and a family relationship gradually healing from betrayal's deep wounds. Have you ever had to stand up for your worth in a difficult situation? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Remember to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life experiences, and share with anyone who might need encouragement to advocate for themselves. Thank you for joining me on this journey from betrayal to empowerment. Sometimes our greatest strength emerges only when we're forced to find it.